Many seniors overlook small home hazards, not because they are careless, but because these details have quietly blended into daily life over many years. A rug that has been in the same place for decades no longer feels like an object to step over. A dim hallway light becomes part of the evening routine. A slightly uneven step is remembered by the body more than by conscious thought. When something has never caused trouble before, the mind naturally files it away as safe, and over time, familiarity replaces caution. This is not denial. It is a very human form of trust built through repetition. For a long part of life, the body adapts quickly. Balance adjusts. Reflexes respond without effort. Small slips are corrected instinctively, often without even being noticed. Because of this, the environment feels stable, predictable, and forgiving. But aging changes the relationship between the body and the space around it in ways that are subtle and gradual. The home itself does not change. What changes is the margin for error. Reaction time slows slightly. Muscles take a moment longer to respond. Vision adapts less easily to shadows or low light. These shifts do not announce themselves. They do not arrive as a clear warning. They appear quietly folded into ordinary mornings and evenings. That is why many hazards remain invisible. They are not new dangers. They are old details meeting a body that now moves with a different rhythm. There is also an emotional layer that often goes unspoken. For many seniors, the home represents independence, memory, and continuity. Acknowledging that something familiar might now be risky can feel like questioning one's own capability. It can feel unnecessary or even uncomfortable to adjust something that has always been fine. So the mind chooses comfort over reassessment. This choice is understandable. It is gentle. It comes from a lifetime of managing one's own space without help. Yet most accidents at home do not come from dramatic failures or obvious negligence. They come from ordinary moments, getting up at night, carrying something small, turning too quickly, trusting a surface to behave the way it always has. The danger is not the object itself, but the assumption that time has not changed the body's response to it. Recognizing this is not about fear or alarm, it is about awareness. The goal is not to fix everything or to turn the home into a medical space. It is simply to notice, to see familiar details with fresh eyes, to ask gently and without judgment whether the environment still supports the way the body moves today. Small adjustments made from this place of awareness do not take independence away. They quietly protect it. And often the most important shift is not in the home at all, but in the mindset, the understanding that living well after 70 is not about holding on to the past unchanged, but about allowing the present to be a little kinder, a little safer, and more in tune with how the body truly feels now. 1. Loose rugs and slippery floors are one of the most common causes of falls at home. Loose rugs and slippery floors are one of the most common causes of falls at home, not because they are dramatic hazards, but because they exist quietly in places the body moves through every day. A small rug near the bed, a mat by the bathroom door, a smooth tile floor in the kitchen, these surfaces rarely draw attention. They are familiar. They feel ordinary. And precisely because they are ordinary, they are trusted without thought. For many years, that trust is justified. Feet learn where to land. The body remembers how to adjust. Even if a rug shifts slightly or a floor feels slick under certain conditions, balance and reflexes step in automatically. The moment passes unnoticed and life continues. Over time, these small near misses reinforce the belief that everything is under control. What quietly changes after 70 is not the rug or the floor, but the way the body responds in that split second when something slips. Balance becomes a little less forgiving. Muscles take just a fraction longer to react. The nervous system still works, but it works at a calmer, slower pace. This is not weakness. It is simply the body conserving energy and moving with greater deliberation. The problem is that loose rugs and smooth floors demand quick corrections. They rely on instant feedback between the feet, the brain, and the muscles. When that response slows even slightly, the margin for recovery narrows. A shift that was once corrected without thought now has the potential to become a fall. Slippery floors add another layer of risk because their danger often depends on conditions. A floor that feels stable during the day may behave very differently at night when lighting is low and the body is just waking. A small amount of water from washing dishes, a trace of moisture after a shower, or even polished surfaces designed to look clean and bright can quietly reduce traction. These changes are rarely noticed until the moment the foot meets the surface. By then, the body has very little time to respond. There is also a psychological comfort tied to these objects. Rugs are often placed for warmth, decoration, or habit. They make a space feel finished and lived in. Removing them or changing them can feel like disrupting the character of the home. Floors, too, are part of the identity of a space. Smooth tiles and polished surfaces are often associated with cleanliness and care. Because of this, the idea that they could pose a risk feels counterintuitive. The mind resists the thought, not out of stubbornness, but out of familiarity and attachment. Most falls related to rugs and floors do not happen during rushed or reckless moments. They happen during calm, everyday activities, getting out of bed, walking to the bathroom, carrying a cup of tea, turning to answer a sound. These are moments when the mind is relaxed, not alert for danger. That is why awareness matters more than fear. Noticing how surfaces behave under different conditions and how the body feels when moving across them is often enough to reveal where gentle changes could help. When the home supports steady movement, it allows the body to move with confidence instead of caution. And in that quiet confidence, independence is preserved, not diminished. 2. Poor lighting makes everyday movement harder, especially at night or early morning. Poor lighting makes everyday movement harder, especially at night or in the early morning, not because vision suddenly fails, but because the aging body depends more on clear visual cues to move with ease. In younger years, the eyes adjust quickly. Shadows are interpreted without effort. The brain fills in missing details, and the body moves forward confidently even in dim conditions. After 70, this process becomes slower and more deliberate. The eyes need more time to adapt when moving from darkness to light or from light to darkness. Contrast becomes more important. Subtle changes in floor-level edges of furniture, or the presence of an object on the ground, may no longer stand out clearly when lighting is low. Nighttime and early morning are especially vulnerable moments. The body is transitioning between rest and movement. Muscles are still waking. Balance is not yet fully engaged. At the same time, lighting is often at its weakest. Hallways may rely on a single small bulb. Bedrooms are kept intentionally dim to support sleep. Bathrooms may be lit unevenly, creating shadows rather than clarity. In these conditions, the body is asked to move carefully without receiving enough visual information to do so smoothly. A step that looks level may not be. A corner that seems clear may hide an object. The mind hesitates, and the body follows with uncertainty. Poor lighting does not always announce itself as a problem. Many seniors adapt quietly. They memorize the layout of their home. They count steps. They learn where furniture sits and how to move around it in the dark. This familiarity creates confidence, but it also hides risk. Familiar spaces feel safe even when visibility is reduced. The danger appears not in the usual routine, but when something small changes, a chair moves slightly, an item left on the floor, a door not fully open. In low light, these changes are harder to detect and the body has less time to adjust. There is also a natural tendency to avoid turning on lights at night. Some worry about disturbing others. Some wish to avoid fully waking up. Others are simply accustomed to moving through the dark. This habit feels harmless, especially if it has been practiced for years without incident. But as vision changes with age, darkness demands more effort than it once did. The eyes strain. Depth perception becomes less reliable. Glare from a single bright source can be just as disorienting as dimness, creating sharp contrast rather than smooth visibility. What makes poor lighting particularly challenging is that it affects confidence as much as safety. When the body cannot clearly see where it is going, movement becomes cautious. Steps shorten. The pace slows unevenly. This tension can increase the risk of missteps, not because the person is weak, but because uncertainty disrupts natural movement. Clear, gentle lighting allows the body to relax into motion. It supports rhythm rather than hesitation. Addressing lighting is not about brightness alone. It is about consistency, softness, and placement. Light that guides rather than startles. Light that reveals pathways without overwhelming the eyes. When everyday movement is supported by clear visual cues, especially during vulnerable hours, the home feels calmer and more cooperative. In that environment, the body moves not with fear, but with quiet assurance. Even in the dark hours when balance and vision need a little more kindness. 3. Bathrooms often hide serious dangers due to wet surfaces and lack of support bars. Bathrooms often hide serious dangers due to wet surfaces and the absence of support bars, not because they are neglected spaces, but because they are designed for privacy, speed, and routine. For most of life, the bathroom is a place the body moves through without thought. The floor feels familiar. The movements are automatic. Stepping in and out of the shower, turning, reaching, drying off. These actions are repeated thousands of times over the years. Because they are so familiar, the mind rarely pauses to reassess them. What has always worked is assumed to continue working. Water changes this environment in subtle but powerful ways. A floor that feels stable when dry can become unpredictable with just a thin layer of moisture. Soap residue, shampoo overspray, or condensation can quietly reduce traction without being obvious to the eye. At the same time, bathrooms are often compact spaces. There is less room to recover balance if a foot slips. Walls and fixtures are close, but not always placed where the body can use them for support. In younger years, a small slip is corrected instantly. The body tightens, adjusts, and moves on. After 70, that correction takes longer, and sometimes it does not arrive in time. The lack of support bars adds another layer of vulnerability. Many bathrooms were built at a time when the occupants did not need assistance to stand, turn, or step over thresholds. Without something solid to hold, the body relies entirely on balance and leg strength, especially when rising from a low position or shifting weight on one foot. These moments are brief, but they are demanding. The risk is highest when the body is wet, feet are bare, and vision may be blurred by steam or water. These conditions combine quietly without drama until one small misstep becomes serious. There is also an emotional reason these dangers often remain unaddressed. Adding support bars or making changes to the bathroom can feel like admitting vulnerability. For many seniors, the bathroom is one of the last spaces associated with independence and self-reliance. Changing it can feel like crossing an invisible line, so the mind delays the decision. It tells itself that caution is enough, that moving slowly will prevent problems, and often for a time that is true. Most bathroom-related accidents do not happen during rushed moments. They happen during calm routines, a normal shower, a familiar movement, an ordinary day. That is why awareness matters more than fear. Recognizing that the bathroom asks more of the body than it once did is not a loss of independence. It is a way of protecting it. When the space supports the body can relax, move naturally, and feel secure rather than cautious. Some people, while listening to this quietly, think of their own bathroom. Others simply notice the feeling it brings up. If this reflection made you pause for a moment, you may leave a quiet comment number 1 below. Only if it feels right. 4. Stairs become more risky over time when handrails are missing or unstable. Stairs become more risky over time when handrails are missing or unstable. Not because stairs suddenly change, but because they quietly ask more of the body than most people realize. Each step requires balance, coordination, vision, and timing to work together in a precise sequence. In earlier years, this coordination happens automatically. The body leans forward, the legs respond, and the hands are rarely needed. Even when a step feels slightly uneven, the body corrects itself without conscious effort. Over time, that ease gradually softens. Movements remain familiar, but they require more attention, especially when going down rather than up. Handrails play a role that is often underestimated. They are not only there to catch a fall, they provide reassurance and stability before balance is lost. A secure handrail allows the body to distribute weight more evenly and adjust posture as it moves. When a handrail is missing, loose, or placed too far to reach comfortably, the body must rely entirely on leg strength and balance. On good days, this may feel manageable. On tired days or in moments of distraction, that same staircase can feel very different. Lighting, vision, and depth perception also interact with stair use. Shadows can blur the edge of a step. Similar colors between steps make it harder to judge height. After 70, the eyes need clearer contrast to accurately assess distance. Without a stable handrail, even a small misjudgment can create hesitation. Hesitation interrupts rhythm, and broken rhythm increases the chance of missteps. The body becomes cautious rather than confident, and cautious movement often feels less steady. There is also a strong sense of familiarity attached to stairs. Many seniors have used the same staircase for decades. The body remembers its pattern. This memory creates trust, but trust can hide gradual changes. A rail that is loosened over time, a step that is worn smooth, or a slight shift in balance that the body compensates for without noticing. These changes accumulate quietly. The risk is not in one dramatic moment, but in repeated daily use under slightly less supportive conditions. Emotionally, stairs represent independence. Being able to move freely between levels of a home is often tied to a sense of autonomy. Acknowledging that stairs may now require support can feel uncomfortable. It may seem like a step toward limitation. In reality, a stable handrail does the opposite. It allows movement to continue safely and confidently. It reduces strain on the body and lowers the mental effort required to navigate each step. Most stair-related falls happen during ordinary moments, carrying something small, turning to speak, or moving at a familiar pace. When the environment offers steady support, the body moves with less tension and more assurance. Over time, that quiet support makes all the difference, allowing stairs to remain a part of daily life rather than a source of worry. 5. Cluttered walkways slowly increase fall risk even if they seem harmless. Cluttered walkways slowly increase fall risk even if they seem harmless because the body depends on clear, predictable paths to move with ease. A small stack of items near a doorway, a low table placed slightly out of habit, or everyday objects left along a familiar route rarely feel dangerous. They become part of the environment. The eyes recognize them. The feet learn to step around them. Over time, the mind stops registering their presence at all. What was once noticed becomes background. As the body ages, movement becomes more deliberate. Steps are placed with greater care. Turning requires a bit more space. When walkways are cluttered, the body is asked to make constant micro-adjustments. Each adjustment may feel insignificant, but together they increase physical and mental load. Balance is no longer flowing freely, it is being negotiated. The more often the body has to step around or over objects, the greater the chance that one small miscalculation will occur. Clutter is especially risky because it changes easily. An item moves slightly out of place, something set down just for a moment, or an object that was not there the day before can interrupt a familiar pattern. In good lighting and full attention, the body adapts. But during tired moments, low light or routine movements, these changes are harder to detect. The body expects an open path and meets resistance instead. There is also an emotional comfort tied to clutter. Many objects carry memory and usefulness. Keeping them close feels practical or reassuring. Clearing pathways can feel unnecessary, even intrusive. Yet the issue is not the number of items, but where they sit in relation to daily movement. Walkways are the body's highways. When they are clear, the body moves smoothly and confidently. When they are crowded, movement becomes cautious and uneven. Reducing clutter in walkways is not about minimalism or control. It is about giving the body permission to move without constant correction. When paths are open and predictable, balance feels natural again. The body relaxes into motion. And in that quiet ease, the risk of falls decreases without effort or fear. Aging balance and slower reaction time make familiar spaces less forgiving. Not because the body suddenly becomes unreliable, but because it now moves with a different kind of precision. In earlier years, balance is elastic. The body sways, corrects, and recovers without effort. A slight misstep is absorbed. A sudden shift in weight is handled instinctively. These adjustments happen so quickly that they rarely reach awareness. As time passes, balance becomes calmer and more deliberate. The body still knows what to do, but it takes a little longer to respond. Familiar spaces often hide this change. When a room has been walked through thousands of times, the body moves on memory as much as on sight. Corners are anticipated, distances are assumed. This familiarity creates comfort, but it also removes alertness. The body expects the space to behave exactly as it always has. When balance and reaction time slow, that expectation can become risky. A slight change in surface, a shift in lighting, or an object placed just a few inches out of position may not be registered in time for the body to adjust smoothly. Reaction time plays a quiet but important role. When the foot meets unexpected resistance or slips slightly, the body needs an instant response to prevent a fall. After 70, that response still comes, but it arrives with less urgency. Muscles engage more gently. The nervous system prioritizes control over speed. This is not a flaw. It is the body protecting itself. The challenge arises when the environment demands speed rather than steadiness. Familiar spaces often do because they invite relaxed movement rather than careful attention. There is also a tendency to blame oneself when something feels off. A moment of imbalance may be dismissed as clumsiness or fatigue. But these moments are often signals, not failures. They reflect the body asking for a little more support from its surroundings. When familiar spaces remain unchanged, they assume the body can compensate, as it always has. Over time, that assumption becomes less accurate. Making spaces more forgiving does not mean treating them as dangerous. It means allowing for the body's natural evolution. Clear paths, steady surfaces, supportive features, and gentle lighting work together to match the body's current rhythm. When the environment adapts, the body does not have to rush. It can move with confidence rather than caution. And in that balance between body and space, daily life feels smoother, safer, and quietly more comfortable. Many accidents happen not from big mistakes, but from repeated daily habits, because the body learns through routine and begins to move without conscious attention. Habits are formed to make life easier. They reduce effort. They allow the mind to rest while the body performs familiar actions. Getting out of bed, walking to the kitchen, stepping into the bathroom. Reaching for a light switch, these movements are repeated every day, often in the same order at the same pace. Over time, they become automatic. Automation feels safe because it has worked countless times before. The quiet risk appears when the body changes, but the habit does not. After 70 movements that once required little effort begin to ask for more precision. Balance, strength, and reaction time adjust subtly. The body compensates often without awareness. A hand reaches out a little earlier. A step becomes slightly shorter. The pace slows just enough to feel controlled. These adaptations are intelligent and protective. But habits by nature do not adapt on their own. They repeat exactly as they were formed, assuming the same conditions and the same physical responses. Daily habits also tend to occur during low alert moments. Early morning, late evening, or times of fatigue are when routines are followed most closely. The mind is relaxed. Attention is inward. This is when the body is least prepared for surprises. A floor that feels a bit slick, a step that feels slightly higher, or an object placed where it usually is not, can interrupt an automatic movement. Because the habit is already in motion, the body has very little time to adjust. What might have been corrected in the past now becomes more difficult to recover from. Many people associate accidents with recklessness or carelessness. In reality, they often occur during calm, ordinary moments. There is no rushing, no distraction, just a familiar action performed the same way it has always been done. The mistake is not the action itself, but the assumption that repetition guarantees safety. Repetition creates confidence, but it can also create blind spots. When something is done without thought, it is less likely to be questioned. There is also comfort in habit. Habits provide structure and predictability, especially later in life. They offer a sense of control in a world that may feel increasingly complex. Changing them can feel unnecessary or even unsettling. Yet small shifts in habit do not require effort or fear. They begin with awareness, pausing before standing, turning on a light before moving, taking an extra moment to feel the surface beneath the feet. These are not corrections. They are gentle updates to routines that no longer match the body exactly as it is today. Understanding that accidents often grow from repetition rather than error allows for a kinder response. It removes blame. It invites curiosity. When habits are adjusted to align with the body's current rhythm, safety improves naturally. Life continues to flow, not through caution or restriction, but through small, thoughtful changes that support ease, confidence, and independence in everyday moments. Simple home adjustments can quietly support safety and independence, not by changing the way life is lived, but by allowing life to continue with less effort and less risk. These adjustments are often small, almost unnoticeable once they become part of the environment. A light that turns on more easily, a surface that feels steadier underfoot, a handhold that is there when balance needs reassurance. None of these changes announce themselves as solutions. They simply remove friction from daily movement. What makes simple adjustments powerful is that they work with the body rather than against it. After 70, the body prefers stability over speed. It responds best to environments that are predictable and forgiving. When the home is arranged to support this rhythm, the body does not have to compensate constantly. Muscles can relax. Movement becomes smoother. Energy is conserved for the things that truly matter, such as connection, activity, and rest. Independence is often misunderstood as doing everything without support. In reality, independence is the ability to move through daily life with confidence and choice. A home that quietly supports the body enhances this confidence. It reduces the mental effort required to navigate familiar spaces. When the mind does not have to monitor every step, it feels freer. This freedom is subtle, but it has a profound effect on how life feels from day to day. Many seniors hesitate to make changes because adjustments can feel symbolic. They may appear to signal decline or vulnerability. Yet most simple changes are not about limitation. They are about alignment. Just as glasses support vision, and comfortable shoes support walking. Home adjustments support movement. They are tools, not markers. They allow routines to continue safely rather than forcing routines to change. The beauty of simple adjustments is that they blend into life. Once made, they fade into the background. A clearer pathway becomes normal. Better lighting becomes expected. A steady surface becomes trusted. The body responds by moving with less hesitation and more ease. Over time, this ease builds confidence. Confidence encourages activity. Activity supports strength and balance. In this way, small changes create a quiet cycle of support that grows stronger over time. Safety does not always require constant attention. When the environment does part of the work, the body is relieved of that burden. This is especially important in moments of fatigue, distraction, or low light when the body's reserves are naturally lower. A supportive home stands in during those moments, offering stability without demand. Perhaps the most important aspect of simple home adjustments is that they respect dignity. They do not draw attention. They do not change the character of a home. They allow life to unfold as it always has, but with a little more kindness built into each step. In that quiet kindness, independence is not reduced. It is protected gently and continuously through thoughtful choices that support living well at every stage of life. Staying safe at home is less about fear and more about gentle awareness and care, because fear tightens the body while awareness allows it to move with ease. Fear makes people rush, avoid, or second-guess themselves. It turns ordinary moments into sources of tension. Gentle awareness does the opposite. It slows things just enough to notice what supports the body and what quietly asks for attention. It does not demand change. It simply invites presence. Many people believe safety requires constant vigilance, watching every step, anticipating every risk. But this mindset is exhausting and it often backfires. When the mind is tense, movement becomes stiff, balance suffers, confidence fades. Care when practiced gently feels different. It is woven into daily life without effort, turning on a light before moving, pausing for a breath before standing, placing a hand where support feels natural. These actions are not precautions born of worry. They are expressions of kindness toward the body as it is today. Awareness grows from listening to how the feet feel on the floor, to how the eyes adjust in dim spaces, to how balance responds when turning or reaching. The body gives feedback constantly, but it speaks softly. It prefers to be heard without urgency. When these signals are acknowledged, small choices arise naturally. Not because someone said they must, but because it feels right. Care becomes intuitive rather than imposed. There is also care in allowing the home to share responsibility. A supportive environment does not replace independence. It strengthens it. When the home offers steady light, clear paths, and reliable support, the body is free to move without negotiation. The mind relaxes. Daily routines feel familiar again, not because nothing has changed, but because the space has adapted with grace. Perhaps most importantly, gentle care preserves dignity. It avoids labels and judgments. It does not frame aging as loss. Instead, it recognizes aging as a shift in rhythm. Slower does not mean weaker. Careful does not mean fragile. It simply means attuned. When safety is approached this way, it becomes part of living well, not something separate from it. Fear focuses on what might go wrong. Awareness focuses on what is happening now. Care responds with small, thoughtful adjustments that support ease. Together, they form a quiet foundation for daily life, one that does not demand attention yet is always present. If reflections like these feel meaningful to you, you are warmly welcome to stay with this channel. We share gentle thoughts like this regularly, each one meant to accompany you rather than instruct you. And if it feels right, you may subscribe so we can meet again in the next video and continue these quiet conversations together.